The film begins with psychiatrist Dr. Malik examining the case files, recordings, and documents of his patient, Malcolm Rivers. According to the records, Malcolm was born to a prostitute and endured a deeply traumatic childhood. At the age of 9, his mother abandoned him at a local motel, after which he was raised in an orphanage. As an adult, Malcolm committed a brutal crime, murdering 6 people in an apartment complex on May 10, 1998, his birthday. The atrocity was so severe that the court sentenced him to death, with his execution scheduled for the following day. In the next sequence, a district attorney receives an urgent call from a colleague, informing him of a midnight court hearing. Malcolm's defense attorney has uncovered his diary, claiming it could alter the case. This revelation infuriates the prosecutor, who questions how such a ruthless killer could be granted a retrial mere hours before his execution. The narrative then shifts to a roadside motel, where the owner, Larry Washington, is watching television as heavy rain pours outside. Suddenly, George York rushes in, carrying his injured and bloodied wife, Alice, revealing they have been in an accident. A flashback shows the couple driving through the storm with their young son, Timothy, seated in the back. Their journey is disrupted when a front tire bursts, startling the family. George pulls over and discovers that a shoe lodged in the tire caused the blowout. The story then cuts to another flashback featuring Paris, Nevada, a former prostitute, driving along the same road. While searching for her lighter, she accidentally scatters her belongings, including the shoe, onto the roadway. Back at the accident scene, George works on repairing the tire as Alice stands nearby with an umbrella. Timothy, playing inside the car, gestures for his mother to come closer. As Alice approaches, the moment takes a sudden turn.
Oh my God! Alice! Oh my God! What have you done? What have you done?
In a subsequent flashback, Edward Dakota is seen driving actress Caroline Susan in a limousine. When Caroline's phone battery dies, she asks Ed to search for a charger in the suitcase beside him. Distracted, Ed loses focus on the road and strikes Alice. Horrified, Ed insists on helping her, but Caroline demands they flee. Ignoring her, Ed exits the vehicle to check on Alice. Meanwhile, Paris continues driving but discovers the road ahead has been washed away. Attempting to turn back, she crashes into a lamppost. Ed gathers the injured woman and others into his limousine and drives them to the nearby motel. Larry attempts to contact emergency services but finds there is no signal due to the storm. He informs them that the nearest hospital is 30 miles away. Feeling responsible, Ed volunteers to drive Alice there despite the weather. Caroline refuses to leave the car, but Ed forcibly removes her and departs. Along the way, he encounters Paris, whose vehicle has broken down. She requests a ride, and Ed agrees. Paris warns him that the road ahead is flooded, but he disregards her advice and continues, only to have the car sink into the rising waters. At that moment, another vehicle approaches from the opposite direction, driven by Lou and Ginny Eziana. Ed asks for their assistance in reaching the hospital, but they explain that the road behind them is even more impassable. With no alternatives, the group returns to the motel to spend the night. Before leaving his limousine, Ed retrieves a revolver from the glove compartment. Back at the motel, he informs George that they are stranded until the storm subsides. Larry checks in the guests and assigns them rooms. Soon after, a police officer named Rhodes arrives with a prisoner in custody. He requests lodging until the storm passes, assuring Larry that the prisoner will remain restrained. Ed explains Alice's critical condition and asks Rhodes to call for an ambulance. Rhodes attempts to use his police radio but fails to establish contact. With no other option, Ed takes matters into his own hands, stitching Alice's wounds with a needle and thread. His efforts stop the bleeding, and her condition begins to stabilize. Meanwhile, Ed notices Timothy behaving oddly and remaining silent since the accident. Concerned, he asks George if the boy is all right. George responds affirmatively but reveals that Timothy's biological father, a man with severe anger issues, left 2 years earlier. Since then, Timothy has spoken very little. Meanwhile, Larry escorts Rhodes and his prisoner, Robert Maine, to their assigned room. To prevent escape, Rhodes chains Robert to the toilet. Later, Caroline is seen rehearsing her speech, unaware of a shadowy figure lurking behind her. Suddenly, the motel phone beeps, signaling a connection. Overjoyed, Caroline rushes outside into the pouring rain, shielding herself with a shower curtain as she searches for a stronger signal. But then, events take a dark turn. Despite the storm, Ed hears strange noises and ventures outside. He discovers a broken shower curtain hook, then another, forming a trail that leads him to the laundry room. Inside, several washing machines are running, and he hears something spinning within one of them. As he checks each machine, he encounters a horrifying sight: Caroline's blood-soaked clothes wrapped around her head. Rhodes and Larry arrive, equally stunned. Upon examining the machine, they find the key to room 10, Rhodes' room. Alarmed, they rush there, only to discover Robert has escaped. Ed gathers everyone in the main hall to explain the situation. However, Larry blurts out that Caroline is dead and the killer has escaped, sparking panic. Ed calms the group, revealing he is a former police officer. He draws his gun and decides to partner with Rhodes to track down the murderer. Meanwhile, Larry shows little concern, sneaking into Caroline's room to steal her money. Back in the main hall, the guests remain unsettled, particularly Ginny Eziana, who suddenly leaves, claiming she senses something terrible will happen. She and Lou retreat to their room, where they argue. It is revealed they married because Ginny claimed to be pregnant, but she now admits she lied. Enraged, Lou confronts her, prompting Ginny to lock herself in the bathroom. Lou pounds on the door until the banging abruptly stops. Leaving an eerie silence. When Ginny cautiously emerges, she sees the shadow of someone attempting to stab her. Terrified, she retreats, climbs out the bathroom window, and falls into Rhodes' arms.
Ginny, you okay?
Ed and Rhodes enter the room, shocked to find Lou dead, stabbed multiple times. Meanwhile, Robert escapes into the desert, spotting buildings with lights. He breaks into one, only to realize he is inexplicably returned to the motel. This time, Ed and Rhodes catch him, beat him unconscious, and tie him to a chair, instructing Larry, armed with a baseball bat, to guard him. Later, Ed and Paris examine Lou's body and discover a key labeled 9 in his hand. They inform Rhodes, then notice Larry leaving his office despite being assigned to watch Robert. Rushing to check, they find Robert murdered, his throat impaled with the baseball bat, and the number 8 key nearby. Suspicion immediately falls on Larry. Though he denies involvement, matters worsen when Caroline's wallet is found on him. Cornered, Larry takes Paris hostage. At that moment, a frozen corpse tumbles out of a refrigerator. Seizing the distraction, Larry flees in a pickup truck. Driving toward the exit, he suddenly encounters Timothy standing in the road. George rushes to save his stepson but is struck and killed. The narrative then shifts to Malcolm's trial. Dr. Malik explains that the law prohibits executing someone who does not comprehend the charges against them. He presents Malcolm's diary, which contains entries written in multiple voices and handwritings, indicating severe dissociative identity disorder. This explains Malcolm's lack of memory regarding the murders. Malcolm is then wheeled into the courtroom, restrained and barely conscious. Back at the motel, the group restrains Larry, convinced he is the killer. In his defense, Larry reveals that the frozen body was the true motel owner, also named Larry. He explains that after losing his fortune in Las Vegas, he fled from creditors and stumbled upon the motel, where he found the owner dead. Desperate, he impersonated the proprietor, storing the body in the refrigerator and continuing the charade as guests arrived. Though most believe his story, Rhodes remains unconvinced. The group decides to remain together in the main hall for safety. Later, Rhodes checks on Alice, only to discover she has died. Beneath her pillow lies a key marked 6, leaving the group bewildered and questioning the whereabouts of the remaining keys. The group reflects on George's death, and after moving the pickup truck, they discover a key labeled 7 in his pocket. This discovery shocks them, as no one could have anticipated the accident beforehand. Frustrated, Ed suggests that Paris, Ginny, and Timothy drive around in circles until dawn. However, Rhodes insists they remain at the crime scene. Moments later, as Ginny and Timothy enter the car, it suddenly explodes. The group rushes to extinguish the flames, only to realize that Ginny and Timothy are missing, and George's body has also vanished. Searching the motel, they are horrified to find that all of the corpses, Robert, Lou, Alice, and even Caroline's severed head, are gone. Overwhelmed, Paris suffers a breakdown, screaming that she wants to live and lamenting that she will turn 30 next week. Larry then remarks that his birthday is also next week, and shockingly, Rhodes and Ed echo the same. Alarmed, they examine the guests' identification cards and discover that every one of them was born on May 10. At that moment, lightning strikes the motel roof, plunging the building into darkness. Ed continues reviewing the IDs and notices that all the names correspond to U.S. states: Dakota, Rhode Island, Nevada, Washington, Carolina, Virginia, Louisiana, New York, and Maine. He then enters a trance-like state, hearing a voice before abruptly awakening in a hearing room, where Dr. Malik and others are present. The doctor tells Ed he missed his appointment and asks where he has been. Ed recounts the events at the motel. Malik shows him a photo of Malcolm Rivers and asks if he recognizes him, but Ed denies it. Another man presents photos of Malcolm's murders, leaving Ed confused. Dr. Malik explains that Malcolm endured a traumatic childhood, which led to the development of multiple personalities. He hands Ed a mirror, revealing that Ed is, in fact, Malcolm. Malik clarifies that Ed is merely one of Malcolm's identities, not a real person. Despite the revelation, Ed refuses to accept it, insisting on his life as a cop with a home and family. Malik calmly explains that this is all a fabrication, and that everyone at the motel is a manifestation of Malcolm's fractured psyche. Among these personalities, one is particularly malevolent and responsible for the murders. The massacre at the motel represents this evil identity attempting to eliminate the others to gain full control of Malcolm's mind. Malik tasks Ed with confronting and destroying this murderous personality, explaining that success would restore Malcolm's sanity and spare him from execution. Ed then awakens near the motel. Meanwhile, Rhodes investigates the switchboard but finds nothing. Paris searches the police car for a flashlight and instead discovers documents detailing the transport of two prisoners, Robert and Rhodes. A flashback reveals Rhodes and Robert in the police car, both dressed as inmates. Rhodes retrieves a hidden knife, kills the officer, and steals his uniform. In the present, Paris opens the trunk and discovers the real officer's body. Horrified, she runs back to the motel, calling for Ed and Larry. Rhodes confronts her, realizing his cover is blown. Larry intervenes, striking Rhodes with a fire extinguisher, but Rhodes quickly recovers and fatally shoots Larry. Paris flees. Later, Paris finds Ed and explains everything. He reassures her and instructs her to stay hidden while he confronts Rhodes. The two engage in a violent gunfight. Rhodes shoots Ed multiple times but eventually runs out of ammunition. Seizing the opportunity, the wounded Ed fires back, killing Rhodes. Paris rushes to Ed, promising to get help, but he succumbs to his injuries, leaving her devastated. As the storm subsides, Paris drives away in the pickup truck. The scene shifts to reality, where Dr. Malik declares that Malcolm's evil personality has been destroyed, rendering him no longer a threat. The judge agrees and orders Malcolm committed to a mental institution under Malik's supervision. As Malcolm is transported, the film offers a glimpse into his mind. Paris has returned to her hometown and established an orange grove. While working in her yard, she discovers the key to room 1 buried underground. Suddenly, Timothy appears armed with a crowbar, revealing himself as the true murderous personality. A series of flashbacks show Timothy orchestrating all the motel deaths, including faking his own demise. In the final sequence, Malcolm struggles to suppress Timothy, but the boy kills Paris and seizes full control. When Dr. Malik opens the hatch to speak with Malcolm, he is strangled. The film concludes at this chilling moment.